Okay, there you go. Third time recording this. So I've realized I have a lot to say about some movies and some shows. And on top of the spoiler free, mainly spoiler free reviews, most of them are spoiler free, there's stuff that I just want to dive deeper into, right? I have a lot to say, you know, and so this is what this is, right? I think maybe someone would want to listen to it through podcast form while they're working. Maybe someone would want to listen to it through, I don't know, maybe just to hear some thoughts. Currently getting food ready for my fiance, and I'll be doing these recordings because I am busy throughout the day. I'll be doing these recordings throughout the day, like throughout whatever I'm doing. So I'm not too sure if you'll be seeing my face, if you'll be seeing what I'm doing, but either way, you'll definitely be hearing me, right? And yeah, this will be in addition to the short form review of the film, which usually I try to keep within 5 to 15 minutes. If it's anything longer, it's usually because it's a top 10 or because I'm talking about the Oscars, right? But this one, I don't know how long these will be. Maybe a couple hours, but I'll be recording throughout the day, whatever I do, because I'm decent when it comes to multitasking, when it comes to talking about film and shows and doing something else. So this weekend, I decided to check out the Peaky Blinders film, the Peaky Blinders Immortal Man. And so this is coming from someone, like just to give you a bit of background. This is coming from someone who's a big fan of Peaky Blinders, right? I started watching the show when season 4, by the time season 4 ended, I got on the show, right? On Netflix. I started watching it in high school, and pretty quickly Thomas Shelby became one of my favorite characters ever written. I think he's very well written, he's strategic, he's a torment to the soul. He's very complicated, sometimes does stuff for the betterment of his family, sometimes he's the cause of his own demons and the cause of his own uh, demise, you know? And the characters throughout the show and the acting and the writing, really well done. And, I still consider to this day season 2, episode 6 to be some of the best stuff I've ever seen. I think it's greatly written. If Peaky Blinders had ended there, yeah, I think people would consider Peaky Blinders one of the best miniseries or short series to ever exist. Season 2, episode 6 was phenomenal. I don't think I'll ever forget it. The the ending, the subverting expectations, the moment of vulnerability from Tommy, from this man who is always inviting death, and in this moment, when he's so close to having everything, it's when he least wants it, right? And it's a greatly written thing where honestly, I didn't see a way out. In my head, again, I started watching it when the fourth season had come out, right? In my head, I'm thinking like, okay, so the rest of the series is not about Tommy Shelby then, because there's no way he's gonna get out of this. There's no way. So Stephen Knight created this thing, and it was huge. It created a lot of online momentum, but I think it's also because the story is great, the characters, especially Tommy and Polly and Arthur, are really really well written. Uh, More so Tommy than anyone else, of course. So this is coming from someone who's a big fan. So Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man. Let's talk about it. I have a lot of things to say about it, so let's just talk about it. So how does the movie start off? It starts off after years after, it seems like years after season 6, right? Tommy Shelby, now gray-haired, is living alone in the countryside. He's writing a book, sort of memoir, it seems, of his experiences and his own way of coping, right? But he's isolated, he's by himself, he's left the Peaky Blinders. And who has he left it to? Or, I guess a better way to put it was, who has picked up what he dropped, right? It's a microwave. Duke Shelby did, his son. Now, in this series, he was played by some other dude. I'm not too sure what his name is. And I can't look it up because I'm using the phone to record. so forgive me for that. But he was played by somebody else. In the movie, they hired Barry Keoghan, right? I think Barry Keoghan is a good actor, borderline great. I see a lot of uh, great little things that this guy has and nuances and everything, and whatever you got to say about his personal life, he's a really good actor. Barry Keoghan is a great actor. I don't know if that justified them doing the actor switch, but does he work in this movie? I think he does. Yeah, I think he does. It's funny because I believe he got the role because in the interviews he's saying that it was Father's Day and that he texted Cillian Murphy and he texted Cillian Murphy Happy Father's Day and Cillian Murphy responded with, "Oh, hello, do you want to play my son in Peaky Blinders?" And Barry was like, "Oh, sure." And, they're both from Ireland. Yeah, he plays Duke well, right? So, and Duke is someone who, having been, Tommy Shelby not really having anything to do with his family, including Duke. Duke's been forced to grow on his own in this life, and all he knows is basically the worst of it, right? And you see it from the beginning, how he runs Peaky Blinders now, how he carries himself and everything. So, anyways, the thing that propels the film forward is the beginnings of World War II are happening, right? And a Nazi leader goes to Duke and he tells him and offers him basically a lot of money. He offers him a job, uh, well, a sort of payment for an important role to him in the war, which had to do, I believe, with flooding currency into the economy of England, and therefore their currency will diminish in value, and basically it'll break the economy, from what I understand, right? It has something to do with it. But before that, the man, this Nazi leader, he's played by Tim Roth, he tells Duke that he needs to prove himself, right? And so Duke, he kills someone, and then that's kind of not enough, right? And the guy he plays it's good writing because the guy he plays with the characters, with Duke's emotions. He said, if I, the son that I have, I'm not proud of, but if you were my son, I would cherish you, right? Of course, just hitting where it hurts. Duke doesn't have a relationship with his dad, so here comes this father figure of sorts. He's trying, but obviously it's manipulation. But he says that, in order to pick at the weak spots. It's smart, and I'm gonna be honest. After at this point, right, we're about 40 minutes into the film. Tommy Shelby again. We see him, tormented, and we see him haunted and dealing with the death of Arthur Shelby, which I have a lot to say about that. It's revealed to us in the beginning that Arthur has passed away. I think that has a lot to do with the actor himself being unable to come back because of his own personal, his own personal battles that he's going through. And then, how does Tommy come back? And I think the way that they brought him back felt very forced for me. Not only too late into the movie, it just felt forced, right? Essentially, what happens is Rebecca Ferguson, she plays she plays his new character. We haven't seen it before, right? She plays the sister of the mother of Duke. And they do this weird thing. They played with supernatural elements throughout the Peaky Blinders show, especially after Grace's death, right? It's pretty clear Tommy sees her throughout the rest of the show. It's pretty clear he sees other characters. I believe other characters throughout the rest of the show. Um, but for sure, Grace. He sees Grace, and I believe Ruby as well. His daughter who passes away in the last season. So Peaky Blinders has played with supernatural elements, right? But this felt just it felt hilariously forced to me because the way that it works is she comes into his life she basically says this sort of thing that through a certain form she can basically be in a way like possessed by the spirit of her dead sister, right? So how does she bring Tommy back in, right? How does she bring Tommy back into doing the right thing, and you could still have an impact. She tells me, which I think is good writing. I think it just should have come from somebody else. She tells me, you couldn't save. I believe it's him. It's she that tells me. If not, he says it himself. She tells him, you couldn't save Arthur. You couldn't save Polly. You couldn't save your daughter, but you can still save your son. Oh, my dog. And that's good itself, right? Like him going back to save his son, and finally doing some good out of all the evil that he's done. It feels like the right step to go for his character. Now I'm washing dishes. Let's proceed. So yeah, so I think the choice of the film to basically have this lady be possessed by the sister, and then him and Tommy. I don't know. It's like the only way he could remember her was through some sexual act. Is that the best way to write that? I don't know. For the character, I don't know. I think I'm talking a lot about the film as if nobody's seen it, right? But let me jump forward, and let me really deal out my thoughts as if you have seen it. So by that point of the film, and by the point that he starts heading to Duke, right? It's about 40 minutes into the film, and I think it's just far too late into the movie to do that, right? It's far too late into the movie to do that. The film, as a film, it felt like it was taking a while for it to get get moving, right? And then by the end of it, stuff felt really rushed. As that was a film by itself. As a film finishing a series, oh my god, it felt terrible. Not terrible, but maybe that's a bit harsh. But it didn't feel right. It felt like it abandoned a lot of aspects of the show. It abandoned the main villain in season 5 and season 6, that storyline. It felt like it was rushing through things. Again, as a movie that's finishing up this huge series, right? Yeah, it felt too quick, too rushed. And then the 45-minute mark hits. I believe it's 45-minute mark. The guy, the Nazi guy, the Nazi Tim Roth's character, he tells Duke, and this is the best part of the film, and its highlight, and I would say it's such a greatly constructed scene that I've been thinking about it ever since I watched it. Right? It's not just good for the movie; it's good compared to other films. You know what I'm saying? Like I won't take that away from it. There is this scene, in that same scene, where Tim Roth's character tells Duke, I would cherish you and everything. He tells him who his next target is, and his next target is Ada. Of course, she's the youngest of the show, but she's come out throughout the whole series. She's been a fan favorite, and sort of the bringing everyone back to a moral, as close as you can get in part of being a Peaky Blinders family, often bringing everyone back to morally good grounds, right? Or as close as you can, at least neutral. And then we get the song called Puppets. And we get a phenomenal sequence. It's great cinematography throughout the movie. But in this sequence, man, where we get a tracking shot following Duke, where we see Ada walking with her son, her adult son, right? And you just know that this is, okay, so this is the target. This is Duke. He's gonna do it. He told Tim Roth's character, oh yeah, I would. Let me rephrase. He didn't tell Tim. Actually, he didn't tell Tim Roth's character he would. I believe he just stayed quiet. So the music is playing, and it's one of the best songs I think I've heard in any Peaky Blinders thing. It's a phenomenal song. It's called Puppets. I can't remember who it's by, but I've been listening to it on my own because it's just that good. It has like this grungy, like gritty feeling, like a gritty guitar that just fits the scene perfectly. Tommy Shelby has decided he's heading back home, right? And during the sequence, we actually have a hilarious joke by Johnny Dogs, a great joke. It was just such a good joke about him, Tommy, and Duke. Greatly written line. But yeah, so we follow this guy, and the reason why I say Barry is a good actor is because of scenes like this. You know, you've seen this guy in Banshees of Inisherin. You've seen him in other things, and this guy can act. You could tell he's being tempted. You can tell he's fighting demons in this scene where he has the gun, right? And his aunt is there. She's in sight. Tommy's nowhere to be found. He's in the car heading back. Johnny Dogs is driving the car. But it's a great intercutting of scenes. Phenomenal tracking sequence. Phenomenal sequence. And and Duke's better sense of morality wins. And he doesn't do it. He doesn't kill his aunt. But last second, and this is where the song just hits and it climaxes. And so yeah, last second, you know, somebody, which is he's all dressed in black. He comes up to Ada with a gun, and Duke yells, you know, Ada, run! Like he tells his aunt like to run, but she gets shot. So Ada Shelby does get killed. It's a great scene because at the same time Tommy feels something like he felt, even though he was never there and he had no idea about it, he felt the death of his sister. He tells Johnny Dogs to stop the car. And then when he's on the road, he sees like the ghost of his sister, right? You know, having passed and stuff. Not just good, it was a great scene. And that's the highlight of the film. It was a great piece of music. It was good character writing on the part of Duke, and it was good acting. Good acting. Most of the rest of the movie, unfortunately, especially in the second half of the film, just left me with a lot of disappointment, to be honest. By that point, you know, the runtime is getting close to the end. You realize some characters aren't even going to be mentioned. Some plot lines aren't going to be addressed. And I finished the movie really despising two main decisions, right? Above disappointment and feeling a feeling deeper than just disappointment or it was a mistake of the film or something like that. No, it was deeper than that. If you've seen the show, you know that throughout the show the character Arthur deals with substance abuse. He deals with his own and usually succumbing to his own worst parts of himself. Tommy often is there to get him out of the situation, or sometimes Tommy's there and makes the matter worse, to be honest. But at the end of the day, in the show, you know, he loves Arthur. I believe that. You know, I believe he loves his brothers. I believe he loves Arthur. I think them both being in the tunnels just gave them a trauma. It was like a trauma bond that they both had, right? And that's his older brother. And yes, he would always help him, and annoyingly, sometimes to the show's own, detriment, where it's like a reused plot. Okay, Arthur again he's having problems, and Tommy's gonna get him out, stuff like that, right? But even so, the character of Tommy would just be there for his brother, knowing that he himself is fighting the same demons just in a different way, right? So what does the film decide to do with Arthur Shelby? In the beginning of the film, it's told to us through Arthur. Sorry, it's told to us through Tommy that Arthur shot himself. That one day he was just super high on opium, and he shot himself in the car. You never see the actor's face. They do this smart and unique camera work, so you never see Arthur Shelby's face. But the gun goes off in the car, and you assume that, oh, okay, so that's it. Then when that lady, Rebecca Ferguson's character, visits Tommy, it's revealed that Tommy was there, and that, he tried to get the gun away from his brother, and the gun goes off, and that it was an accident. And so it insinuated that Arthur had the gun, he was on opium, Tommy went to go help, and in the scuffle and in the chaos inside the car, a gun was shot and Arthur died out of the result, right? That's what we're led to believe. After Ada's death, Tommy, the writer does this thing where he has Tommy go over to Ada's body and basically give the biggest and, in my opinion, disrespectful to Tommy's character flashback and revelation that he can. And it's that turns out he did kill his brother. He did it on purpose. This is legit. Then we cut back to the flashback. And yeah, it shows Tommy killing Arthur. Such a disappointment. It feels like they did the character of Arthur extremely dirty, but I think who they did even more dirty was Tommy. I don't think... I don't understand how you miss that. How do you mess up that bad? Like, you can't forget who your character is, and in that moment, I think the writer forgot. Tommy explains that he did it out of rage, that he was drunk, and that he just wanted, yeah, that's it. He wanted to stop helping his brother, like, that's it. He just wanted to stop. Everything to stop. When I saw that scene, it's just one of those things where you feel like like, it's just one of those things where you feel like you know the character more than the writer himself. If that makes sense. It's just something that I don't see Tommy ever doing. I think it could have been maybe, and even this would be leaving Arthur, and even this would be doing Arthur dirty, like even if he committed suicide and everything, right? That's, at least there, the writer's just somewhat ruining Arthur's character and doing him dirty, right? Not really finishing off his arc, I feel. But then when you have Tommy be the one to kill him off, and it's brutal. Like, the sound effects are there and everything. Now you ruin Tommy's character. Just the absolute wrong thing to do. Absolute wrong thing to do. That is just something that you don't ever see Tommy doing, right? And the second thing that I most didn't like and despised about the movie was how it ended. How does it end? It ends with, after Tommy and Duke work together to defeat the enemy, Tim Roth's character, and basically not let his plans unfold, it ends with Duke killing his father at the request of Tommy. Tommy wants this. Right? It was insinuated throughout the movie that the only thing that would bring Tommy peace was death. His own death, right? Which we've seen in the show. And again, just feels like a repetitive, like we're seeing the same thing, right? We've seen before. And then he does, and Duke kills him. Hesitantly, but he does. And again, it's just one of those things where I think it's just poor. As fans, as people who have seen these characters, throughout the years. What do you hope for? What do you want? Do you want Tommy to go out like this? For a guy who is so tortured and for a guy who has gone through a lot, and especially thinking about how season six ends, especially thinking about how season six ends, about how he doesn't, kill himself. I don't understand how you revert. It feels like we're going back, okay? How you revert his character arc to now again. Peace will only come from death. So we're back on that now. And on top of that, it doesn't make sense to me. I think it would have been great to have, even if Tommy died at the end of the film, it would have been great if he had died, sacrificing himself for his son. You know, Halfway through the movie, he says, "I'm going to save my son." But how are you going to save your son if you're haunting him with the same demons you fought with by having him kill you? Tommy being one of the greatest, the smartest characters ever written on on television or on a screen. How do you not process that? Especially having gone through these 6 seasons, right? Where towards the end he had more empathy than he ever had before, I would say. And especially in the film, where you say something like, "I need to save my son." How are you going to do that to him? How is it that the writer decided to do that? Yeah, no. So if I were you, and you've never seen Peaky Blinders before, watch season 1 to season 2, and I would just end it there. That's perfection. If you want to continue on with a great seasons, season 3 to season 4 are great. But as an arc, I think it closes with Tommy. It can close with Tommy, sorry, at the end of season 2. That's just, that would have been great, right? So yeah, so that's why, the movie was a disappointment. It was technically great. The music was amazing. The cinematography was great. The acting también, the acting, there's this, Tommy Shelby is back, yeah, he was. Cillian Murphy was there. But they ruined Tommy Shelby's character. Barry Keoghan did good as Duke, but there wasn't enough between Duke and Tommy's dynamic. We see them together in one scene, I feel too late into the film. And then after that, there isn't a scene that's chemistry building enough for me after that, right? It would have been great if Tommy either had sacrificed himself for his son, or he had finally gotten the peace he wanted by living with the only other family he has left and not leaving his son without anybody, basically, right? That feels great. Like that feels like a great end considering everything that Tommy has gone through and everything he's made other people gone through. Right? He's not a good man. I would say I don't think he's a good man. But if in this film you're going to say from this bad will come some good, yeah, I don't know. Um, Again, great camera work. I loved that sequence. I really did. Separating it from everything else. Does it wrap up Peaky Blinders? Uh, you know, I'm not too sure about that one, especially not in the way I would want. Again, I think season 2 is a great way to end Peaky Blinders, and that story for you ends there. I really do think so. And yeah, we'll see. I think it's insinuated that the torch is passed on at the end of the film. The torch of the Peaky Blinders, the head of the Peaky Blinders, is passed on to Duke. Do people want that? If we're thinking about getting a new show, I don't think so. I don't think they're gonna make a new show. I think it would be a bit of a mistake, to be honest. It just feels then to me that the movie was then just like a big purpose of the film was then to promote the next thing, right? But that's not what you want. You want this film to end Tommy Shelby's arc, to wrap it up nicely. And it didn't do that for me. and it sucks. I didn't want to say that. I wanted to say that it's great, and I wanted to say that it was amazing, and technically yes, and acting wise, yeah, right. But story wise, the story starts at the script, the writing, at the characters, and that's the most important for me, and that's a no. Yeah. But anyways, those are my thoughts. I don't know how many more of these I'm going to make. I do want to talk extensively. Again, there's like some stuff I want to talk extensively about. How I believe I can put this out as podcast form in YouTube, where if you want, you can see the video, and if you want, you could also just listen to it in the background. That's up to you, of course. But some of the things that I would love to talk about is Firefly. Man, I just watched it. I have a lot of things to say about Firefly. A lot of good things to say about Firefly. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms is something I would love to talk about for a good amount of time, right? So like this amount of time seems right to me. Again, yeah, one of my favorite characters ever written. A great show. Used to be one of my favorites when I first started watching it. I don't know if it is anymore. I don't think it is, especially I think it stopped being one of my favorites around season 5 or 6. It just felt like we were repeating some things, and it felt like Tommy Shelby as a character wasn't moving forward. Um, but it was still great. It was still great. It's just one of my favorites. I watch a lot of things, man. To put it as one of my favorites, it has to beat other things in my head. Like I've got a library of things. It has to beat, Breaking Bad. It has to beat all of these other shows. And I don't know. I don't think it does. I don't think it does. But not to take away what it did build, right? But anyways, I'll catch you guys next time. Bye bye.